Good Monday morning. It is 5:01 a.m. in New York, Monday, August 14th. Thank you for joining us. I'm Lauren Simonetti.
And good morning, everyone. I'm Cheryl Casoni. Got to say, Asian markets higher on the rhetoric dialing back a bit between the United States and North Korea. So those numbers are nice to see on this Monday.
We went into the weekend. It seems like the situation has calmed just a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. But things not calm here within the United States. And we want to start with this. The White House this morning is clarifying its remarks following President Trump's initial reaction to the deadly violence over the weekend in Charlottesville, Virginia. And Vice President Pence has spoken out, and there is also a federal investigation now underway. All of this began Friday night after white supremacists marched on the campus of the University of Virginia over the removal of a statue of Confederate General Robert E. Lee. Well, the turmoil went violent on Saturday as the white nationalists and counter-protesters clashed. Then a car driven by 20-year-old James Alex Fields plowed into a crowd and killed 32-year-old Heather Heyer, injured 19 more. And on Saturday, President Trump condemned the violence but did not single out any groups in his remarks, drawing criticism from many Republicans as well as Democrats. The White House later clarifying the remarks. More on that in just a moment. We should also add a senior Justice Department official telling Fox News federal officials are investigating whether Fields had help and says domestic terrorism charges are now possible.
Well, organizers, they canceled a planned vigil last night at the University of Virginia to remember Heather Heyer due to what's being called a credible threat from white supremacists. But marchers did gather to honor her at the downtown street where she was killed. The Virginia governor, Terry McAuliffe, denouncing the supporters of white nationalism.
We got to call it out for what it is. It is hatred, it is bigotry, and our leaders got to be very frank, unequivocal. We will not tolerate that in our country.
Fields faces charges of second-degree murder and other counts. He is due to be arraigned today. And 2 Virginia state troopers are also being remembered after their helicopter crashed while they were helping with public safety at the protests. Aerial surveillance of the scene.
All of this, obviously, the White House has been involved over the weekend with everything. The White House now, though, clarifying President Trump's remarks, denouncing the violence in Charlottesville. So a spokesperson says in a statement that the president said very strongly in his statement yesterday that he condemns all forms of violence, bigotry, and hatred. Of course, that includes white supremacists, KKK, neo-Nazi, and all extremist groups.
Vice President Pence speaking out about the violence in Charlottesville. Listen.
We have no tolerance for hate and violence from white supremacists, neo-Nazis, or the KKK. These dangerous fringe groups have no place in American public life and in the American debate, and we condemn them in the strongest possible terms.
The vice president spoke during a visit to Columbia.
And obviously, the administration under fire because people were saying, of course, the mainstream media says that President Trump wasn't strong enough in his rhetoric. And the White House says, no, believe me, he is not happy with what happened in Virginia over the weekend. Come on.
Yeah, of course he's not happy. But even Republicans are saying he should have just denounced it for what it was, domestic terrorism and white supremacists.
Well, the White House clarifying that. For more on the violence in Charlottesville over the weekend, let's bring in a former member of the FBI National Joint Terrorism Task Force, Steve Rogers, and former Chief of Staff to Senator Mike Lee, Boyd Matheson. Guys, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Morning.
A lot of this, certainly the clarification of what the DOJ is investigating right now, Steve, is kind of the big question mark. Do we call this domestic terrorism? Do we call it something else? The DOJ says, though, that they are looking into James Fields and whether or not he worked with others. What are they looking for specifically, Steve?
Well, they're looking to see if there were others who had planned this attack on these individuals. Look, when any American, no matter what side of an issue that they're on, is killed exercising their First Amendment rights, it's sad for this country. Indeed, I believe the president was very strong in his remarks. And the fact of the matter is that whether he said domestic terrorism or not, it doesn't change things. We have to look to the future, to solutions, and I believe that's where the White House is going to be moving now with regard to this issue.
Boyd, we just heard from Vice President Pence. We heard from a spokesperson from the White House all saying that President Trump has no tolerance for this, but yet the mainstream media turned this into a political fight on Saturday. In the wake of all of this violence, the same day, Boyd, partisan politics at work here.
Yeah, Cheryl, there's no space for that in a time like this. This is one of those moments when we do need to come together as Americans, not left and right, not liberal and conservative. We have to get down to the real issues. And so to start parsing words and he should have said this or could have said that, that's not what this is about. What we have to recognize is that as a country, we have to make sure that we have no tolerance for it, that we call it out for what it is. But more importantly, it's what are we going to do about it? And it starts in our communities. It starts in our homes. It starts in the way, do we blow up somebody's Facebook feed or their Twitter feed because we disagree with them on a political issue? So this goes from the White House. They have a great opportunity here to lead. I hope the president continues on that. Vice President Pence did a great job calling that out. And now it's what are we going to do next? That's the key. And that's where I hope this conversation goes.
And also real quick, Steve, how could we have prevented this? They had a permit for this rally on Friday night. So it was known to the local officials there that they were going to be holding basically a white supremacist rally.
Well, to follow up on what my friend just said, we prevent these incidents when we reach the human heart. Look, we have Office of Faith-Based Initiatives in the White House and all over this country. It's time we get the clergy across this nation of every faith involved. It begins in the home, in our schools. Right. So not only do we try to prevent this in Charlotte, but we could move forward in great ways by bringing the clergy across this country into this conversation. That's a good
point. That's a very good point. Boyd, really quick, I want to ask you, you're going to be taking part in a rally today in Utah, a unity rally. Tell us about what you're planning later today.
That's right. We've got a great event coming this afternoon up at the state capitol in Utah. We'll have the lieutenant governor. We'll have Representative Mia Love from Congress. And we're going to show that this is what America is really all about. And it's about coming together as communities. We don't have to wait for Washington to do anything, but we can show that contempt has no place. Contempt is that idea that someone else is absolutely worthless. And we have to get beyond that with kindness, with goodness, and we have to start it right here at home. That's the whole key. So we look forward to having a great event tonight and really showing the nation that this is how it's done. This is how we can move forward and focus on the things that matter.
It's 2017. It's amazing we're having this conversation this morning. Steve, Boyd, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Cheryl.
And to the other crisis that we're facing right